All right, so this is our June Public Health and Safety meeting, and we're going to start by approving the minutes from our meeting last month. So are there any revisions, or we can go ahead and approve those?
Good.
Okay, so we'll approve the minutes for the May meeting. And then next on the agenda, I just want to clarify the fire company meeting attendance, which is this next Monday, right? At 8 o'clock?
Yes.
Okay. And I think I could go to that one, just to take a turn. Okay. And, you know, it occurs to me, Samantha, if we, at some point we should talk about if we're going to cancel the July meeting, and also if there's anything this committee needs to do related to the fireworks. Like it used to be that we would kind of have this check-in. But
Do we need to
But
do that?
we, you know, we don't need to do that, but it's just,
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I appreciate you offering that. I think with the conversations I've had with the NBA, and they have with all due respect to how it was done before, they have a professional fireworks company doing the fireworks this year.
okay.
And I know that Mike Kennedy was on the call we had with the NBA the other day. And I guess I'll check if we have our fire marshal here real quick, and our fire company vice president. Bill, do you have any concerns about the fireworks? Does it sound like everything's on track?
I mean, not having been involved in the meeting, I don't know. I mean, there's always,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
always because of the location, we have distance challenges. And, I mean, that's the biggest concern, is that, you know, we only have a footprint that's so big, and we've got to meet the requirements of NFPA 1124 and 1123 to make sure that everybody stays safe. So, I mean, that's the one thing we really have to be aware of.
Yeah, and the good news is Mike Kennedy was very helpful about that, and really emphasized those distance requirements. So I think, so yeah, I was really glad to have Mike representing both Public Works and kind of sort of, you know, fire on that call. And in the future, you know, we usually have Public Works, police, and admin on those sort of calls, but maybe in the future, I wouldn't expect you to be at every one, but maybe in the future, I'll at least let the fire department, you know about any special event stuff. And
And if it's a call, I can generally jump on, but I mean, calls are easier to deal with.
Yeah, and my apologies that
No worries.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So, so Samantha, if it's okay with you, before we go into the public comment, we could just clarify that our next meeting would be the August meeting. Does that work?
If you want to cancel July 1, which I have no issue with, I think your next meeting would be, it would be August
4th or August 5th?
August 5th, yes.
Okay. Okay, so we won't meet in July because it's part of that holiday weekend. We'll meet in August.
Right. And are we going to meet after our council meeting, or do we want to stagger weeks?
Yeah, maybe that's something we'll try to figure out going forward, but we'll stick with August 5th for now. And
Yeah, I would say if we're just talking about scheduling a meeting, I don't have Sunshine Act concerns about talking about that outside of a scheduled meeting. We would just need to make sure that we make a change, you know, that the office has adequate time to do the legal advertising and all that about it for it.
okay, so how about I'll check with the committee about all our schedules kind of heading into the fall to see if we want to change our meeting time. You know, I like that this time seems to work for everybody, but maybe this week is not, you know, maybe a different week in the monthly cycle.
Well, at least I'll say as well, I mean, in August and September, there won't be a council work session the night before, so that might help too.
Right, okay. And, you know, I spoke with Samantha earlier that I think we can stay on track with the work of the committee, especially the stormwater, which is due in September, I think. So, the committee work will continue. Okay, so let's go to public comment. I don't think we have anybody.
Nope.
All right, so traffic concerns. So here we have our running list of concerns that come to the committee. And Samantha, do you want to kind of walk us through, or if you have any suggestions on kind of improving the process?
Yeah, so now that we've been, trying to do this process for the past 6 or 7 months here now, I think the challenge we're running into is, part of why we created this process is traffic concerns can be very subjective, and I think part of why I wanted to start using the traffic monitoring units for speed and vehicle volumes was to put some objectivity on what can be a very subjective sort of thing. And I think the challenge we're running into in our committee meetings is with our current threshold of just, right now, if any single person in the borough raises a traffic complaint, our process is it gets brought to this committee. And as you all have seen at times, it adds a considerable number of items to our agenda. I've also found that when we try to address some of these issues, that then suddenly people come out of the woodwork who are like, well, this isn't a problem, or people come out of the woodwork who disagree with the solution to the problem and would prefer things just remain the way they are. And so I think that and a resident on one other complaint even said to me, oh, I'm shocked that other people on my street haven't said anything to you about this traffic complaint that I have. So I think, I talked with our borough engineer, actually. I just happened to be chatting with him about it while he was investigating some complaints one day. And he recommended the policy Swarthmore Borough has, which I include in your packet, which ups the threshold for reporting. Let me get our packet opened up here. I believe I think it ups the threshold. I'm not saying we necessarily need to do the thresholds that are in the Swarthmore one, but I think it ups it to like 50% of people on a street or something like that have to sign off on the complaint.
Yeah, 60%.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying it needs to be that high or even that, because I don't want to have to be quite honest, I don't want to have to calculate for each street in the borough what 60% is. But maybe we up the threshold from like 1 person to like 3 people have to have the same traffic complaint, or 5 people have to have the same traffic complaint, or for this committee to take up the complaint. And if someone files a complaint, I'd be happy to let them know, the policy, like, hey, just thanks for your concern. If there are a few other people who feel the same way, and you can get them to sign on to a letter or let us know or something, then the committee can take it up.
I think that's a really good idea. I think 60% of a block, for all the reasons, feels complex. I'm not sure 3 is high enough. But I've said this before, the traffic, I think we need to defer to the experts, the traffic engineers, and not have residents kind of problem solve without that experience or expertise.
I agree. So maybe we say, maybe we tweak the policy to be that, it has to be 5 people. Doesn't matter if they live on the same street or not, because you can, even without living on a street, you can also observe a traffic problem when you're driving around the borough. So I would say that it needs to be 5 borough residents who share the same traffic concern for it to come to this committee's attention, and for us to spend the resources of our traffic engineer to investigate the concern.
Okay, that sounds right. We've seen this in other contexts where one person comes forward in support of something and another person opposes it. So, yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, that being said, I mean, we do have 3 outstanding ones under the old system, if you will. So I just wanted to hopefully briefly touch on those here this morning. Get those reports up. We've had a long outstanding one from the mayor actually about a concern about wrong-way traffic on Narberth Ave, on North Narberth Ave. And we just didn't have a chance to get the, we went through that whole process of getting our traffic monitoring equipment back online. And we finally had a chance last month after looking at the traffic on Sabine Avenue to deploy it over on Narberth Avenue. And I feel like we've run into the same problem we ran into on Sabine. I think the roads in Narberth are just so narrow that this equipment is designed just to capture one lane of traffic data. However, the roads here are so narrow, I think it's picking up all the traffic, even with us facing it, towards wrong way traffic. Because if you look at, well, the packet's downloading here, but I remember when I looked at that data and prepared this report, thinking to myself, like, this seems like there's no way this number of vehicles is going the wrong way on North Narberth Avenue. This looks like the total volume of traffic on North Narberth Avenue. And so, and I guess, again, I'm not the traffic engineer. I guess, like, I'm not saying that this wrong way traffic doesn't happen, and I don't know if the chief has any insight on this. I just don't know what the solution would be based on the discussions we've had with similar situations already. Already parking is, happens on both sides of North Narberth Avenue. Already the speed limit there, I mean, is, 25 miles an hour. And the data captured, of probably all traffic didn't really show a speeding problem on North Narberth Avenue. I do definitely remember it stood out to me. There was like one vehicle or something, or a handful of vehicles that were doing like 55 or 60. And it was like near late at night, like middle of the night sort of thing. I don't know what sort of decision making led to someone wanting to go 60 on North Narberth Avenue, but that's an extreme outlier. I mean, looking at that data before, the large, let's try, here we go. The preponderance of data, and I'll share my screen here, shows people are going the speed limit on North Narberth Avenue. Like, so this, these blocks here, 1 to 5 miles an hour, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, 16 to 20, 21 to 25. And, the darker the gray, the more common it is. And you see almost everyone on here, is following the speed limit, with most people going somewhere between 6 and 15 miles per hour. Which that makes sense to me, given how, cluttered, in a good way, that block of Narberth Avenue is.
Can I ask? Oh.
Yeah, go ahead.
I always kind of wondered why we did those speed variations, because we've talked about, again, exactly what you're saying. 25 feels too fast on our narrow streets. So, and we know we don't have a speeding problem above 25. And we have old reports. I actually have the paper copy sitting at my house. I wish I brought it. That said, again, using the built environment for traffic calming tools is really the #1 effort. I mean, this is a 16-year-old traffic report, and we've just never done any of the things that the traffic study suggested. So, I mean, I guess I would go back to, again, like some of those suggestions of the raised crosswalk, narrowing the streets with the curb cutouts.
Well, I guess what I would say, I generally agree with that. Just in the specific context of North Narberth Avenue, and again, I'm not the traffic engineer, and again, with all due respect to our mayor, from what data we have, and anecdotally looking at that street, it's tough for me to envision there's a problem to be solved here, or at least a problem, enough of a problem for the borough to make the investment in, which I don't know what the investment would be in this case to do anything about it.
I do think this actually is a parallel issue with the streeteries. which has always been, I think, one of my concerns is using those raised pedestrian crosswalks or narrowing of streets just to protect folks who are now that we have this great, outdoor dining. So perhaps we could solve potentially to even maybe just a smaller or perceived problem of people going the wrong way in North Narberth and slowing down traffic at 25 or below in that 5A district. But again, we have a grant going out for this that we're going to have the experts really take a look at it.
So I mean, I think for this specific concern, I mean, I'm recommending we take, again, with all due respect to everyone involved and all that. I'm not saying this doesn't happen, but I'm just saying the data that I have and just anecdotally observing the street as a semi-pro, I guess I would say, as borough manager, but not a traffic engineer, I'm recommending that we take no action at this time.
Okay, and so any sort of traffic calming, raised crosswalks, all of that is kind of on hold, right, until we do the TCDI, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and once we hear from that, we could discuss kind of a process, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
The next one we have is in regards to Essex Avenue. And let's see here. So this is oh yeah, sorry, let me share my screen. Sorry, Bob. Let's see here. All right. So
actually, don't apologize to me. It's helpful to see it.
no, I meant sorry that I wasn't sharing it with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think and I think for people who watch the recording later, they'll want to be able to see what we're talking about. So there's concern here about the volume of traffic, speeding, and aggressive driving along North Essex Ave between Sabine Ave and Lindale Road. And I'll just say, I mean, anecdotally, I like to take different ways home from the borough office and get out to Montgomery Avenue. And I sometimes go North Essex out towards Montgomery. And I think there's some, anecdotally, I think there might be some merit to this concern. I think I think it's worthwhile. I mean, you could take the traffic unit that we have on North Narberth Ave right now. Since we're not trying to look for wrong-way traffic, we're just looking for general traffic volume and speeding. I think this would be an ideal use of the traffic monitoring equipment if we move it from North Narberth Ave over to this area. The resident has suggested there's a problem, and see what actual data we get back.
Yeah, no, the equipment should work really well for that, right? It can track the speeding, and we can see how common this is.
All right. Then our last outstanding traffic concern that we have is in regards to over at Windsor Ave and Iona Ave. And again, I'll share my screen here. All right. So again, this seems like kind of like a one-way, a concern about a wrong way on a one-way street issue, where it looks like this resident is saying that Iona and Windsor, again, I'll admit it's an intersection I'm very familiar with in terms of my commute home and getting around the borough. There's a picture of this intersection in the memo as well to help anyone who doesn't regularly go through there to understand what's going on. It sounds like this resident's saying that when you come up to Windsor and Iona, that despite this no right turn sign, that people are turning right onto Windsor, which is one way in that area. Again, I'm not saying this doesn't happen. I'm just saying, and again, I'm not the traffic engineer, but just talking to borough staff about it, I mean, there's a no right turn sign, there's one-way signs, there's do not enter signs. I mean, I just can't imagine, in terms of the built environment, I mean, I'll be absurd for a second. I'm not trying to dismiss your point, but just to show that I think there's nothing that can be done. I mean, short of like putting a spike strip down, which obviously we can't and won't do. I just don't think there's any. I don't think there's anything else the borough can do about this. And again, I drive down Windsor a lot. I go through that intersection pretty frequently, and just again, anecdotally, it's hard for me to imagine this being a widespread problem.
So I obviously have 4 doors down from this. And I think that is, in some respects, the least of the worries on that street, although I do see it happen all the time. I do think there's 2 things that the borough can do pretty easily. One is, if you're coming up on Windsor, there is a no left-hand turn sign between 7 and 9 that is never enforced. So I think we take it down. It's evidence of, what Matt West used to say, the sign diet. It becomes overwhelming, right? It's a distraction. Another thing the borough did that was helpful was at the intersection of, this is a huge bus stop area, right? Iona and Windsor, and then Iona and Meeting House, is they would narrow the street per the traffic engineer report with the child crossings. They are always, 99% of the time, anecdotally, they are pushed to the side. They are not actually narrowing that crosswalk because somebody moves it. So I do think that if Public Works, or if we could do something that, again, people can't move, because that did help. And again, anecdotally, that was one of the recommendations that came out of the traffic engineering report, was to narrow that crosswalk, which is why we got those, but they're never placed correctly.
So why don't I do this then? Actually, the Public Works manager had recommended something similar about that no left turn sign. So I mean, if this group's fine with it, I mean, again, the borough technically doesn't have, we're working to address this, but technically the borough doesn't have any ordinances for any of its signage. And again, I don't want to necessarily put you on the spot here, Chief, but I mean, as long as you don't have any major concern about getting rid of that sign, I think we just take that sign down.
No, I don't have any major concerns about that. Just to let you know what we're seeing from our perspective at Windsor and Iona. In terms of traffic going down Iona towards Windsor and taking a right or left-hand turn into the 100 into that corridor, we don't see that too often, and that's one of our main thoroughfares that we drive through to get Iona to branch out through the borough, whether we're going over to Shirley Road or Montgomery Avenue on the other side. So we don't see that too much. The one thing I do see, that we do see quite a bit, we enforce it quite a bit, is in Windsor and Iona, is people disregarding the stop sign.
So they don't stop.
Yeah, so they don't stop. So that's one of the big concerns. They'll have more of a tendency to stop as they're coming up Windsor to approach Iona, but they have less of a tendency to stop along Iona at Windsor. So that's one of the major concerns there. In terms of people obeying that traffic sign, as Cindy pointed out, 7 to 9. Probably right. Probably not too much enforcement, and you have to be there at the right time, right? So, because it's a very small window of opportunity to enforce that. So I don't really have too much of a concern with that. Just in terms of some of the other ones, just going back, touching on them. North Essex, as you come off of Montgomery Avenue, one of our major concerns is always speeding down North Essex, 500, 400 block, and also Dudley, 500, 400 block. So I would welcome any traffic device that we can put up there, actually kind of in tandem sharing those 2 locations, Dudley and North Essex, because we do have a lot of speeding complaints from residents in that area, and we try to get up there on a case-by-case basis. Samantha, to your point, just to actually add support to the North Narberth concern, we don't see a whole lot of people going all the way from Haverford to all the way to Windsor on North Narberth when we see people going the wrong way. There's 2 things that happen primarily on North Narberth in a 100 block. They try to cut into that parking lot off to the left, or they come out of that parking lot off to the left and they try to cut to Windsor in front of the movie theater. So we've stopped people in that regard. So in terms of seeing people go all the way from one block to the next, not too frequently. Not too frequently. It's usually the parking lot is the eye of the storm for us. People want to get to it or they want to get out to it and go to Windsor.
Thank you for that insight, Chief. I mean, if this group is signed out, we could also take the traffic unit that's been parked at Windsor and near Windsor and Narberth Park for the past few months and put it on Dudley to collect that data for a limited time period. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And to Cindy, to your point, is the study that you referenced, is it available? Is it posted on the borough website?
I don't know. You know what? I'm gonna go.
You can give me a copy of it. I would love to read it.
I'll drop it off. I should have brought it today.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it's actually what inspired me to run for council, because we paid for a study, didn't do anything. Neighbors complained, they said, well, we'll pay for another study. I said, you didn't do anything from the first $15,000 study, so they paid $6,000 more to say, yeah, you should have done the stuff we did in the first study, and then we didn't do anything.
Yeah, I would love to see those
I'll
documents.
drop it off
I'll
there
love to
today.
actually do something with them.
Yeah.
But, well, I think that.
Rob, I just,
Yeah, go ahead.
Samantha, I just wanted to add that it's either that study or another study that I recollect that recommended a median on Meeting House Lane near Montgomery Avenue. And that was as a traffic calming measure, just similar to the type I think Cindy's talking about.
Yeah, I think it is that study, Bob. I'll run it back.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so next we go to item 5 here, the open burning regulation. We had a discussion last time with Bill, and we looked at, I think, an example ordinance.
From my old.
From New Britain. Yeah. So, I don't know, and I think Samantha, you've been able to meet since then with Bill. I don't know.
We've tried to get some emails. Bill, I don't know if you want to, if we want to get into this morning, or if you want me and you maybe to powwow before we make another presentation.
I think that's probably the best course of action. I think that we need to, our manager and I can meet and come up with some ideas.
Okay.
I mean, in a perfect world, the previous ordinance had no open burning prohibited across the board. If somebody wanted to have a recreational fire, I think we allowed one for the Girl Scouts at one back years ago for it was their 50th anniversary or something. We allowed open burning for the Legion. They wanted to do a flag burning ceremony where you get rid of discarded flags. We just see, I mean, as the fire department and as fire marshal, we see a lot of calls where, and I don't want to call them nuisance calls, but we're getting called to smoke in the area. Somebody, we're going to have a beautiful weekend this weekend. Somebody starts a fire in their backyard and the smoke starts blowing in their neighbor's house. We get called to it, and we kind of get caught in a neighbor situation. And quite honestly, the way the fire code reads, if it creates an environmental hazard, it can be ordered to be extinguished. And it's like, we don't like to be that, because then we look like the bad guys. So I mean, I just feel that if we do open burning prohibited stretches across the board, I think it would be beneficial to everybody in the borough due to the density of the borough. If we wanted to go another route, I'd have other ideas of things that we could tweak in the existing fire code, but that's something I think that we could have a discussion about.
Yeah, that sounds great. I really appreciate you being here this morning, Bill. Yeah, let's me and you try to get together again. We'll have a little bit of time since the committee's not meeting in July. And yeah, let's plan by the August meeting to have a couple of courses.
I have a couple of drafts of changes to the ordinance, changes to the fire code that I think I could send you the email and hopefully I can get it to you prior to today.
Oh, no, I mean, life happens and stuff. Yeah, I'd love to take a look at that once you have a chance to send it over.
So, I'm sorry, just to clarify. So we are suggesting perhaps that we would ban outdoor fire pits?
I'm not suggesting, well, I don't think we're suggesting anything.
Okay, but when we say open fires, by definition, that is a fire pit?
And the problem is that a lot of people are using the fire pits and they're not using them the way the manufacturer designed.
Okay.
They're not using the spark arresters that are supposed to go on the top. And we get called to, embers going straight up in the air.
Yeah, okay, so that's what we're talking about.
Everything. I mean, the fire code basically identifies 3 types of a bonfire, which is
Right. Yeah.
big, a recreational fire, which is about two feet across, and something you would find at a campfire or something like that. And outdoor fire, portable outdoor fire system. So, I mean.
I think, sorry, just all here, I mean, I'm trying to look at our time and the agenda and all that. Maybe, like I said, once me and Bill have a chance to chat some more about it, again, our August meeting, we could really get into the full-blown discussion about this.
Yeah, I mean, it just, as we go into more discussing that further, I just want to say that there is a lot of there's a lot of interest in continuing to have that opportunity to do fire pits, you know, among neighbors. So I'm wondering if there's a way we could find a set of guidelines that could make it more safe and not put the fire company in an awkward position, as you say, Bill. I hear what you're saying, but I also know that there are a lot of residents that have really kind of enjoyed these, you know, as a way to gather during the pandemic. And so it could be a difficult, it could be difficult for neighbors.
That's why I brought it up, because I didn't want you to go too far down a rabbit hole with, I mean, we use an outdoor fire pit safely multiple times a week, as do I think many residents. I appreciate the safety concern, you know, but perhaps before you go too far down, we should get a sense of, does council support a ban on outdoor fire pits? I mean, is there that middle ground, Rob?
Yeah, and that, I think that's, Bill, I mean, I think you're suggesting there could be tweaks, so maybe that's a conversation we could have and come back to in August.
I'll come up with a couple options.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so then we go to item 6 here, which is the Police Advisory Committee. And we just wanted to check in because now that we've approved this, we want to kind of constitute the committee. So we wanted to check in and see what our next step is.
So I need some guidance from you all on how and where to advertise it. I don't know if you all wanted to create any sort of, you know, not pamphlet, but some sort of paragraph or two or something to market, but, you know, and maybe just copy and pasting from the resolution, you know, what we hope the committee would be working on and would achieve. And I don't know, given the specific nature of some of the members that have to be on it, again, I wasn't sure how necessarily to recruit some of those specific people per se.
Right, okay.
So I think a short description, this is usually the folks that we encourage to apply, and then we can send that email to the Narberth Business Association, we can target to different committees and commissions. I think we can send an email, but I also think maybe a short paragraph with a visual on social media, and then we can craft an email to those discrete groups, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the Civil Service Commission, you know, should go to Mike Tomlinson and say, your committee needs to decide who would be the representative, right? The NBA, I believe, is another.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so maybe you and I could do that. And then what would be a good timeline, would you say? I mean, I guess we want to make appointments. The council could make appointments.
It's really up to you all.
Yeah.
Okay. So we could we could do that in the next couple of weeks. People could apply.
Yeah, let's try to do it early next week. We can get it into the flash.
Okay.
And then send it out before school goes out.
Okay. Okay, so we have just 5 minutes or so. I know, Bob, you have to go. So let's go to the chief. We have the status of command report.
Thank you. Just wanted to give everybody a quick update. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. I know we're pressed for time. Our 2 crossing guards. The one thing I'd like to talk about further as we approach the new academic year, we may have a need for another school crossing guard, at least as a fill-in, that we're going to have further discussions. I just wanted to put that on the radar screen a little bit. And additionally, just a little update on the administrative assistant. We should have the job description done probably hopefully by the close of business today, and we'll get that posted next week, and we'll move forward. I just wanted to give everybody an update because Samantha and I had conversations about this, and the mayor and I have had some emails back and forth about this as well. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. The next one I wanted to actually touch on was our fleet. Give everybody an update. Actually, this moves down to miscellaneous too on the agenda with the status of command. So just to give everybody an update, we were looking at a Kia Wind, one Kia Wind. The availability of these vehicles to replace the parking controller vehicle has been such a challenge for us. Now I have to give credit to Paul Fravish, our newest full-time parking controller. He did such an extensive amount of research to get us the vehicles that we were looking at. We looked at all sorts of different options. The closest that we came was a dealership in Springfield that was able to get one Kia Wind next to us, and we were going to look at it. And we started looking at it further, and then we found out that it was going to take so much money for us to actually kind of retrofit with paint and this and that. We're like, all right, this is cost prohibitive. So now we're actually starting to see a little bit of a break, and I'll dovetail this into the police cars. We recently heard back from one of our co-stars providers that the Ford Interceptors that we were looking at, the ones that we talked about, are starting to, the hybrids are starting to become available. So I just wanted to let everybody know in the committee, if your cries haven't fallen on deaf ears, it's just we're having a challenge trying to get the stuff that we need.
Yeah, and since I just want to also just do a quick mention, since we haven't had a chance to catch up on that. I know we had also talked about, at least seeing what the availability and, size and performance on the Tesla 3 and the Ford Mustang would be as well, in addition to the Ford Interceptor hybrid.
And we looked at them too, and we're going to continue to look. And as a matter of fact, Paul Frash and I have recently talked about this, that we want to kind of get back into it, because now that we have a little bit of a lull in the summer, some less meetings, some less obligations, this is an opportune time for us to capitalize on that. So I just want to just kind of give everybody an update that we are working on it. It just hasn't materialized as fast as we thought. But everybody obviously is aware of the delays in shipping and availability. Everybody knows that. But I just wanted to let everybody know that was some of the headwinds that we bumped into.
Yeah.
And in terms of the rest of it, just wanted to give everybody an update. The Municipal Police Officer Education and Training Commission wanted all police officers trained in MPO by June the 1st of this year. I'm proud to say that we have complied with that. We are 100% in compliance. All officers are MPO trained for the year. As we move down into our update for Lower Merion coverage, we decreased by 10 hours in May versus that of April. I anticipate a further cut decrease in June from what I'm seeing right now. Scheduled training for third quarter, we just threw it in for good measure, even though this is the second quarter on June 28th. We wanted to start taking advantage of different options and alternatives for officers, kind of like thinking outside the box. So one of the trainings that we saw that we wanted officers to go to is strategies for good health and long life, because police work can be stressful, shift work can be stressful. So we started taking advantage of those things. So we're going to schedule that up for June 28th, which is right at the beginning, really, of the third quarter. We're defensive driving for sedans and emergency vehicle operations for SUVs. Supervisory training, I'm proud to say that we now have definitively confirmed, after all this back and forth with Penn State, that we have Sergeant Mike Bernaccio locked in for July 18th. So we're very encouraged about that. And all of the chief certification for the year, including a sexual harassment, discrimination, and retaliatory plans provided by the Philadelphia Police Department on April 29th has completed. So I'm done for the year. So all certifications are done. And that's pretty much it. So that was my update for the status of the thing.
Okay, thank you, John. Any comments from the committee? I know we're almost out of time. Okay, so our next meeting would be August 5th, 8 a.m. And we will be in touch by email, between now and then to work on these different projects. But I think that concludes our meeting for today. Okay, thank you all.
Take care, everybody.